Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, New Orleans Saints 3-2, 2-1 on the road at the Houston Texans, 2-3, 1-1 at home, Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. Saints did me nice on Sunday, plus 110 casher. Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. I'm really excited about watching this football game. This total right now is sitting at 42.5. It is juiced to the under. This opened up at 40.5, and the first move was towards the under. So this went down to 39.5 before this climb. And then once it got up to 42, it dropped back to 41. And now it's up at 42.5, juiced to the under. So a ton of movement on this total, but all moving towards the over at this point. Let's take a look at the spread for this one. Here we go. Sorry, take me a second. We're sitting here with Houston at plus 1.5. They opened up at plus 2. So we got a half-point move towards them. That plus 1.5 is juiced. Let's get over to the cash flow for this one. Sorry, get over here. And we are at this point right now, 29% of the tickets and 54% of the cash is on the Saints, even though we've seen the half-point move towards the Texans. From a total scenario, 50% of the tickets are on the under, but 97% of the cash. So then why would it be moving towards the over? And Birdie says he took Houston up to 7.5 and tied it with a few money lines. Says he'll be betting the Saints money line as well, and he's loving this card. Sammy Comer says this game makes me very uncomfortable. He's leaning towards the under. Nate Dogg looking at Saints -1 here. So the Saints come in off a 34-0 demolishing of the Patriots in New England. Derek Carr showed no effects of the shoulder injury. It's been bothering him. 18-26, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was interesting to see, Belichick doing what he does, taking away the biggest weapon, which, we all think is probably Kamara, but it could be Olave. He took out Olave. So then Michael Thomas caught 4 for 65, and Kamara looked like his old self. He ran 22 times for 80 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 for 17 yards. And that TD made him the Saints' career touchdown leader. Kendra Miller ran 12 times for 37 yards, caught 4 passes for 53 yards. So 2 running backs making big statements, and we know what Carr is. He's just a check down machine. Saints were 3 of 4 in the red zone, and that's a really good sign for them because they came in ranked last in the red zone. They left the game ranked 26th. They've cashed their red zone opportunities at 43.8%. And you can expect that number to go up with a healthy Kamara. They held on to the ball for 39 minutes and 34 seconds, and the defense looked excellent pitching the shutout. And they held the Patriots to just 8 first downs, 1 of 14 on third down. Patriots didn't run a play in the red zone. The secondary defended 8 passes, had 2 picks, one by Tyrann Mathieu, one by Pete Werner, and the Honey Badger returned his 27 yards to the house. A strong safety, JT Gray, exited in the third quarter with a hamstring injury, but it looks like he's going to be okay. This is a pretty healthy Saints squad right now. This is about as good as they've looked. Houston comes in off a tough 21-19 loss at Atlanta. C.J. Stroud continued his impressive start to the season, 20-35, 249 yards and a touchdown. But he's having trouble in the red zone. 1-3 performance on Sunday. The Texans are now 29th in the league in the red zone, converting 35.3% of red zone opportunities. But he's playing clean football, set an NFL record by starting his career with 177 pass attempts without an interception. Dalton Schultz led the way with 7 receptions for 65 yards. But the Texans now have real issues at wide receiver. So Tank Dell caught 3 passes for 57 yards before entering concussion protocol. We'll see if Tank Dell can get out of it. Robert Woods left in the third quarter with a rib injury. We don't know the extent of it yet. But if you take Tank Dell and Robert Woods off of that group, then it's really weak. I mean, it's not that strong to begin with. We're still waiting on Dameon Pierce to have that breakout game. I know it's coming. He ran 20 times for 66 yards, but he needs there to be offensive weapons for him to kind of be an afterthought so that he can bounce and have a big day. It will be tough here against the Saints run defense, 8th in the league, allowing 91.6 rush yards per game. Even with the help of 3rd overall pick Will Anderson Jr., this group isn't getting enough pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They didn't register a sack. They only got 3 hits on Ritter, and they allowed Ritter to throw for 351 yards. We expected more from this secondary when Jimmy Ward came back and with Jalen Petrie, healthy again. Take it away for us here, Troy. Saints, Texans at Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas.
Last week, I was hoping the Texans would lose, not only because I had 3 units on the Falcons to win, but I wanted to back them in the spot against the Saints. And I was surprised to see what happened with the Saints game. But C.J. Stroud, he continues to prove his haters wrong every single week. He marched on the field, needing a touchdown on his last drive, and that's exactly what he got. Now, in all fairness, despite how good C.J. Stroud looked, he missed some throws this last game. And actually, he threw a pick that Jesse Bates surprisingly dropped on that last possession. He struggles versus man coverage. That's pretty evident. I feel like he couldn't sneak it into the windows he usually would in zone coverage. And like you said, they struggle in the red zone. The grade out is one of the worst in the NFL. The good thing is that C.J. Stroud is only sacked on 15% of his pressures, which is on the lower end of the NFL. And this Texans defense, I think that's what impressed me the most about this game. Sure, they benefited from a few fumbles, but this coverage was insane, and it forced Ritter to make incredible throws that I'm not sure he could repeat. Those windows were extremely tight. D'Amico, man, he knows how to scheme. This guy's a really good coach. This team is really well coached. Probably one of the best coach teams in the NFL, working with what they have in terms of skill on their roster. The bend but don't break defense is just beautifully done by D'Amico. And the Saints coming off this blowout win, I thought that this was a perfect spot to fade them because I wasn't impressed with what I seen. I watched every snap and almost threw up in my lap of what I was seeing out of the Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. They were 3 out of 4 in the red zone, and I don't think that was really Carr's successes. They did switch up the offense a little bit from what we've seen out of the Saints, so that's actually very that's if you're backing the Saints, you should be happy about that because what they were doing was definitely not working. Under pressure, Derek Carr gets sacked on 27% of his dropbacks, but can Houston take advantage of that? That's bottom 3 in the NFL, and we know that this pass rush has not been successful so far. And this Derek Carr, 28th in success rate at the QB position so far year to date, and that's kind of to be expected at this point from Derek Carr. Now, that last game that he played versus the Bucs, where he was clearly injured, maybe that's holding a little bit too much weight and adding to those numbers, but I still think that remains to be seen. The Saints defense, I mean, this defense looked impressive. The secondary is incredible. But let's look at who they played. It's very mediocre competition. Their strength of schedule right now, they've had the 4th easiest strength of schedule, 28th in the NFL. They played against the Pats, the Bucs, the Packers, the Panthers, and the Titans. What's a good explosive offense that I just read off that list? There's not one. I mean, the Bucs, they're not a very explosive, high-flying offense, but they put up 26 on this Saints team. I just think that remains to be seen as well. I think the Saints, until they prove to me that they could a lot like I think of with the Ravens, I think that there's still value in some of these other teams that these guys are playing because their defense is perceived to be great, but we haven't seen them play anybody. What happened to the Cowboys as a corollary point? But I see this game coming down to one possession. Both teams should have success defensively, especially in the red zone. Texans have proven their ability to compete and win against good defenses and good teams this year. And the Saints team secondary is built perfectly to defend the Texans. So it's like I definitely started looking towards the under a little bit more. I haven't gotten there yet. I need to spend more time with it. But since 2018, teasing the spread at +1.5, you're 29-3 ATS on a teaser leg. That's 91%. Like I said earlier, 75% is the break even. And according to what I think and how this game should play out, I think it stays within a possession. So this was the other half of my teaser with the Bears. Take the Bears up to 8.5, take the Texans up to 7.5, and that's what I'm playing.
Oh, that is the second leg of the teaser. Let me grab that. Robert Woods is not listed with the rib issue. That's crucial because there's a real possibility that Tank Dell is not there. Bears +8.5, Texans +7.5. Well, this has all made me want to back the Texans. Why would this total have moved to the over? Why? How and why? It just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. And that's the reason why I'm not going to move on this under here. I can't do it. If something just doesn't make any sense, I've got to just stay away. But I want to back the Texans. I agree this is a sell high spot on the Saints. All of this makes sense to me. And I guess we have to. I mean, I don't understand how Ritter could have thrown for 351 yards. That was the reason why I haven't bet it yet.
Did you see those windows he was thrown into? I mean, there were some incredible catches. Like Kyle Pitts had a few balls that, I mean, they made some great plays, those receivers.
Rod's Wacky said Saints money line. Houston's 0-26 as the underdog versus the NFC. I was on the Saints last week, and I heard a lot of great stats as to why the Patriots should be backed as this, in the situation they were in. So in my whole idea was taking the Saints last week was that, don't give me any stats on the Patriots defense without Matt Judon and Christian Gonzalez. I don't want to hear a thing about it. And then can we say this? And I don't know if we can, Rob, but then can we say, I don't want to hear any stats of the Houston Texans without D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud as part of the team. I don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly. I certainly want to back the Texans here coming back home.
Jimmy, what's your thoughts? I know you talked about it before in the past on teasers in general. I know you don't play them. What's your just general overview on that?
Look, I just I want to gamble. I want to gamble, and I love a high volume of action. And so what I've done was I've cut out things to cut down my volume because my volume is high. So I cut out all player props. I cut out all teasers. I'm doing whatever I can to cut down my action because I want to gamble. I just want to have as much action as possible, and I'm doing everything I can to.
So it's a way of like self-disciplining to some extent to keep yourself.
Yeah, it's not me. Yeah, it's not me saying that teasers are a losing proposition. I did blah 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 blah. It's just me keeping it as clean as possible. It's just I need it, or else, when you're dealing with credit, and I deal with Boogie with credit, next thing you know, you're just, you got 40 looks. So that's the reasoning behind that.
Yeah.
Plus the Saints D travels well. Spenny Pennybaum's taking Houston money line plus 106, but he will probably take a teaser with Texas with a couple other spots. All right, let's roll on. And love having all these differencing of opinions in the chat here, and love your thoughts, Rod. And it makes it so much fun. It adds extra layers of intrigue when you're on the other side of a cap you respect. And I have enormous respect for Rod's Wacky. Saints, Texans. I'm going to want the Texans. We already heard the teaser spot. Do you have interest in just taking the Texans plus money line?
I just feel so confident in the teaser, getting it up over a touchdown at this point. If you can get the 1.5, it's just hard for me to want to play the number itself when I really, really have faith that this teaser is the right move.
I feel you.